Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to lean in and hear me loud and clear. This might just be the most important message you hear today, this week, or maybe even this year. Think about yourself always. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but that sounds selfish. Aren't we supposed to think about others? Let me tell you something right now. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot love fully if you don't love yourself first. You cannot serve powerfully if you don't see the power within yourself. And you will never create massive transformation until you understand your own worth. You've been taught to shrink, to be humble, to sit down and wait your turn. I'm here to tell you today, it's your turn now, not tomorrow, not when everything's perfect, right now. So let's break it down. Here are 6 key principles to help you think about yourself always, not selfishly, but strategically, spiritually, and successfully. You are your greatest asset. And until you recognize that truth deep in your soul, not just in your mind, you will keep treating yourself like a tool to be used instead of a vessel to be valued. Most people walk through life believing they are lacking something, lacking money, lacking knowledge, lacking time, lacking connections. But the truth is, you've been equipped with everything you need to begin. You're not lacking, you're simply underutilized. Imagine this, you walk past a plot of land every day and all you see is dirt. But what if under that soil there were diamonds, gold, oil? You wouldn't know it unless you dug deep. That land might look plain on the surface, but it holds immense value that's been covered up for years. That's exactly how most people live their lives, walking around with greatness buried beneath years of doubt, fear, rejection, and comparison. But that value doesn't disappear just because it's not visible. It's still there. It's still yours. It's still waiting for you to believe in it enough to dig it up. You are not your job title. You are not your mistakes. You are not the things people called you. You are not the labels they gave you when they couldn't see your vision. You are an asset created with intentionality and equipped with potential that increases the more you use it. That's the key. Assets grow with activation. A gift unused becomes a burden. A tool that sits in the box rusts, and potential without movement turns into frustration. So if you're feeling stuck, it's not because you don't have what it takes. It's because you haven't honored what you already carry. Most people are waiting for permission, waiting for the world to validate their worth. But let me ask you something. Who gave the world the authority to define your value in the first place? You've been given dominion, not over others, but over yourself, your mind, your decisions, your time, your gift. And if you don't manage the asset that is you, the world will gladly misuse it. You'll be plugged into systems, into companies, into situations where your value is harvested but never honored. Your brilliance will be exploited for someone else's benefit if you don't take ownership of it yourself. Think about this. If someone gave you $1 million check, you'd guard it, you'd frame it, you'd insure it, you'd take care of it, you'd make sure no one else got their hands on it without your permission. But if I told you that your ideas, your voice, your time, and your presence are worth more than that $1 million, would you believe me? The truth is, most people treat themselves like they're expendable. They give away their best hours to people who don't deserve them. They say yes to everything and no to themselves. They downplay their value to make others comfortable, but an asset that's not protected depreciates fast. Here's the shift. When you begin to see yourself as an asset, you stop asking for permission and start giving yourself assignments. You stop waiting and start creating. You stop settling and start building. You stop shrinking and start standing up in full authority. You begin to train your mind like it's worth millions, because it is. You start feeding your spirit like it holds divine instruction, because it does. You start protecting your peace like it fuels nations, because it will. Your value isn't based on external metrics, not likes, not followers, not approval. It's based on the unique, unreplicated blueprint inside you that nobody else on this planet carries. And that blueprint isn't casual. It's divine, it's strategic, it's profitable, it's transformative. But it only becomes those things when you stop treating yourself like a servant to everyone else's success and start acting like the CEO of your own calling. Every business that scales understands asset management. They don't let $1 million machines sit idle. They don't let valuable properties fall into disrepair. They maintain, they refine, they optimize. And that's exactly what you need to do with your life. Maintenance is not vanity, it's vision. Investing in your health, your education, your rest, your environment, your relationships. That's not selfish, that's stewardship. Because here's what's real. When you stop treating yourself like an asset, you start acting like an accident. And accidents move through life aimlessly. Assets move with intention. Assets get developed. Assets produce return. So you've got to look in the mirror and ask, how am I treating the most important resource I've been given, myself? You'll never outperform the value you place on yourself. And you'll never command from others what you haven't first affirmed in yourself. If you think small of your own capacity, you'll attract small opportunities. If you speak small about your own future, you'll live in a small reality. But if you shift how you see yourself, if you begin to see your thoughts, your talents, your essence as the greatest investment you could ever manage, everything changes. Because everything flows from that. Not just money, not just influence, not just recognition, but fulfillment, clarity, and purpose. The greatest breakthroughs don't come from discovering something new. They come from uncovering what was already in you the entire time. And once you start acting like you're your greatest asset, life has no choice but to start treating you like one too. Self-neglect is self-sabotage. And a lot of people don't even realize they're doing it because they've been trained to believe that putting themselves last is noble, that always saying yes is being a good person, that exhaustion is a badge of honor. But the truth is, every time you ignore your needs, every time you silence your desires, every time you abandon your own dreams to fulfill someone else's expectations, you're not being humble, you're hijacking your own destiny. You're participating in your own delay. Neglect doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like consistency with no progress. You show up for everybody else, but never for yourself. You return every call, every text, every favor, but you cancel on yourself without even thinking about it. You had a goal to write the book. You had a plan to start the business. You had a dream to travel, to launch, to build, to grow, but somehow it always ends up at the bottom of the list. And what you don't realize is that every time you push your purpose down, you're signaling to your mind and your spirit that you are not a priority. And if you don't treat yourself like a priority, no one else will. People follow your lead. The way you talk about yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you honor your own commitments, it sets the tone for how others interact with you. You teach people how to treat you based on how you treat yourself. If you're constantly operating from depletion, you'll start believing that your value is tied to how much you can endure instead of how much you can produce in alignment with your purpose. And that's a dangerous place to be. Self-neglect is sneaky. It disguises itself as sacrifice. But true sacrifice doesn't kill the giver. It multiplies the gift. And if what you're calling sacrifice is slowly draining the life out of you, that's not a divine offering. It's dysfunction. And dysfunction doesn't lead to destiny. It leads to detours, delays, and destruction. You were not created to live in a constant state of burnout. You were not created to be everyone's emergency contact but your own. You were not created to live on the edge of breakdown just to make sure everyone else stays comfortable. When you ignore your own needs, your own rest, your own healing, your own voice, you're not being strong, you're being silent. And silence is where your dreams go to die. You can't build something significant from a place of resentment and regret. You can't pour with an empty cup. You can't lead when you're running on fumes. You can't serve with authenticity if you secretly wish someone would just stop asking. That's not generosity. That's martyrdom dressed up as love. People have convinced you that being needed is the same thing as being valuable, but those two things are not the same. You can be constantly needed and still completely unfulfilled. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. Because if you are only showing up in the roles that serve others, but never in the roles that serve you, you're not living. You're performing. And performance without purpose becomes prison. It's time to look at the areas where you've abandoned yourself, where you've left your own ideas collecting dust, where you've muted your own brilliance so you wouldn't outshine someone else's insecurity, where you've dismissed your intuition because it didn't match the expectations placed on you. Those moments aren't random, they're roadblocks. They're little signs that say you've stepped out of alignment, and the longer you stay out of alignment, the more you'll feel the weight of disconnection from your joy, your peace, your clarity, your momentum. Self-neglect isn't just emotional. It becomes physical, financial, spiritual. You stop taking care of your body because you don't believe you have time. You stop investing in your growth because you've convinced yourself other people's needs are more important. You stop dreaming big because somewhere along the way you started believing you don't deserve it. That's not humility. That's hidden pain speaking louder than your purpose. You need to understand that prioritizing yourself doesn't mean abandoning others. It means showing up from a place of strength, not survival. It means you've taken the time to become whole so you don't keep bleeding on the people you're trying to help. It means you've learned how to say no without guilt, how to rest without shame, and how to receive without apology. You can't give yourself away and expect to stay full. You can't keep making withdrawals with no deposits. Every day you delay your own healing, your own clarity, your own momentum, you are delaying the people who are assigned to your gift. Somebody is waiting on you to get serious about your life. Somebody is waiting on you to stop pretending that exhaustion is the price of excellence. Somebody is waiting on you to believe that your well-being matters just as much as your work ethic. You weren't called to die for every opportunity. You were called to live in alignment with your calling. Self-neglect convinces you that there's no time for your dreams, that there's no room for your needs, that taking care of yourself is optional. But it's not. It's foundational. Because the most dangerous thing you can do is spend your whole life being everything to everyone else and nothing to yourself. Protect your energy like it's $1 million vault, because it is. Every thought you think, every conversation you entertain, every emotion you allow to sit in your spirit, those things are shaping your reality. They are either depositing into your future or draining from your potential. Most people don't realize how valuable their energy is because they've been taught to give it away freely. They entertain distractions. They engage with negativity. They say yes to situations that drain them and then wonder why they have no momentum left for the things that matter. Imagine if you had a vault filled with cash, jewelry, gold, and rare treasures. You wouldn't leave it wide open. You wouldn't let just anyone walk in, touch things, move things around, or take what they want. You'd lock it, you'd install cameras, you'd get security, you'd control who goes in and what comes out. Your energy should be guarded the same way because it funds your clarity, your creativity, your peace, your power. The truth is, the most dangerous form of theft isn't someone stealing your money. It's someone stealing your focus, hijacking your time, and draining your spirit. You've only got so much emotional bandwidth in a day, so much mental space, so much focus to give. And once it's gone, it's gone. If you let energy vampires take it from you in the morning, you won't have enough left to invest in your calling by the evening. You cannot afford to keep giving $1 million energy to penny-level problems. You cannot afford to keep answering calls that only leave you more confused, more drained, more scattered. You cannot afford to entertain relationships that survive on your exhaustion. Protecting your energy isn't rude, it's responsible. People will say you've changed when you start protecting your energy. They'll say you're distant. They'll say you're different. That's because they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries, and boundaries are the security system for your vault. They don't keep out love, they keep out chaos. They don't make you hard, they help you stay whole. When you set boundaries, you're telling the world, I know what my energy is worth, and I'm not handing it over just because you asked nicely. You've got to learn how to discern where your energy goes. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every conflict needs your response. Not every invitation is aligned with your assignment. Sometimes the most powerful move is to preserve your peace and keep walking, because peace is expensive, and once you lose it, it costs triple to get it back. You were not created to live in constant conflict, constantly fixing, constantly reacting. You were created to move in power, to operate from vision, and to build from overflow. The people who achieve the highest levels of success aren't just more talented. They're more protective. They don't let distractions in the door. They don't lend their focus to things that don't produce fruit. They wake up with intention. They move with direction. They protect their time like it's sacred, because it is. Time and energy are connected. When your energy is high, your time is productive. When your energy is low, your time gets wasted. So if you care about your time, start by protecting your energy. There's a reason why some of your biggest breakthroughs came in seasons of isolation. In those seasons, your energy wasn't being pulled in 50 directions. You were still, you were focused, you were listening. And because you weren't fighting unnecessary battles, your spirit had space to hear divine strategy. You had clarity because your energy was clear. You weren't trying to solve other people's problems, fix broken systems, or prove your worth. You were simply aligned. And in that alignment, things started flowing. Protecting your energy means being honest about what drains you and what fuels you. It means saying no even when it disappoints people. It means walking away from what's familiar if it no longer fits your future. Some of you are exhausted not because you're weak, but because you're loyal to environments that no longer serve your assignment. You keep returning to places that dishonor your presence. You keep explaining your value to people who benefit from pretending not to see it. You keep giving access to your vault to people who wouldn't even guard your peace if it cost them nothing. Your energy is your engine. It drives your thoughts, your decisions, your relationships, your business, your faith. And if the engine is running on empty, everything else slows down. If your spirit is tired, your work becomes heavy. If your mind is cluttered, your ideas lose their brilliance. If your emotions are scattered, your discernment becomes cloudy. That's why protecting your energy isn't a luxury. It's the foundation of execution. It's the fuel of vision. It's the guardrail for destiny. You've got to audit your access list. Who gets in? Who stays? Who goes? Who only shows up when they need something? And who adds value without being asked? Not everyone deserves access to the inner courts of your life. Some people belong in the outer gates. Not because you don't love them, but because your energy is limited and your purpose is too big to be diluted. Every yes is an investment. Every no is a strategy. Every interaction is either building your future or stealing from it. And you get to decide. Your environment is a mirror of your mindset. You can't grow in a space that's shrinking you. You can't elevate in an atmosphere that keeps pulling you down to the ground. Everything around you is either watering your vision or withering your value. And if you're not intentional about where you place yourself, you'll spend your life adapting to dysfunction instead of aligning with destiny. The space you allow yourself to occupy, the people you let close, the energy you surround yourself with, it all matters. It all adds up because your surroundings are silently shaping your standards. When you think about yourself always, you start noticing things you used to overlook. You notice how you feel after certain conversations. You notice how drained you are after certain meetings. You notice how certain rooms make you shrink, how certain voices make you doubt, how certain patterns keep you stuck. You start to feel the friction between where you are and where you know you're supposed to be. That friction isn't confusion, it's confirmation. It's evidence that you've outgrown your current environment and that it's time to build a new one that matches the magnitude of your vision. You don't get to the next level by accident. You get there by design. And design requires decisions. The decision to distance yourself from what feels familiar but keeps you small. The decision to declutter your life from the noise, the distractions, the people who only show up when they need something but disappear when you need support. The decision to stop tolerating spaces that won't make room for your evolution. That's not ego, that's awareness. Because when you're serious about your life, you can't keep showing up in places that insult your purpose. Growth is uncomfortable, but stagnation is suffocating. And some of you aren't tired because you've been working too hard. You're tired because you've been stuck too long. You're tired of pretending like the room fits when the ceiling has been sitting on your head for years. You're tired of showing up with fire while everyone else is comfortable in the cold. You're tired of holding back just to stay liked. You weren't created to blend in. You were created to break barriers. But that can only happen when you surround yourself with people, places, and principles that stretch you into your next level. Your environment needs to reflect where you're going, not where you've been. If everything around you is a reminder of who you used to be, how can you fully become who you're called to be? You need voices that speak to your potential, not just your past. You need circles that challenge your thinking, not just echo your insecurities. You need routines that elevate your discipline, not just help you survive the day. Because what you surround yourself with, you start to normalize. And what you normalize, you begin to tolerate. And what you tolerate becomes your truth. This is why elevation often comes with separation. Not because you're better than anybody, but because you're becoming better than your former self. When you think about yourself always, you start moving different. You start questioning things that used to feel automatic. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't invested in understanding. You stop apologizing for your ambition, for your fire, for your clarity. You stop shrinking to fit inside a box you never belonged in. That shift creates space, and that space is where growth breathes. You can't take flight while being anchored to environments that clip your wings. And some of those environments aren't just physical, they're mental. They're the stories you tell yourself, the lies you've believed, the habits you've rehearsed, the fears you've memorized. Your internal environment is just as important as your external one. Your mind is cluttered with doubt, fear, and regret. No opportunity will ever feel like enough. You'll sabotage what you prayed for because you never made space for it inside your mind. Changing your environment means clearing space physically, emotionally, spiritually, letting go of what's expired, cleaning up what's chaotic, making room for what aligns. You can't ask for new relationships, new opportunities, new levels of impact while holding on to everything that no longer fits. Growth takes space. Expansion takes energy. And if your life is filled with things that no longer serve you, you'll miss the moments that were meant to shift you. Thinking about yourself always doesn't mean you stop serving others. It means you serve from overflow, not obligation. You build an environment that allows you to thrive, not just survive. You stop showing up for everyone else while leaving yourself empty. You stop pretending that your surroundings don't affect your spirit, because they do. The wrong environment can drown your faith. The wrong circle can dim your light. The wrong routines can kill your momentum, but the right environment can activate your gift, unlock your next level, and pull the greatness out of you that's been waiting to breathe. It starts with ownership. Ownership of your space, ownership of your time, ownership of your choices. You are the architect of your environment. And if you don't build it intentionally, it will build you by default. And that default is rarely aligned with your destiny. The way you speak to yourself becomes the script you live by. If your inner voice is constantly criticizing, doubting, and diminishing you, then no amount of external praise will ever feel real. You'll keep achieving, but you won't enjoy it. You'll keep showing up, but never fully present. You'll keep building, but never feel like it's enough. Because no matter how strong the foundation looks on the outside, if your inner dialogue is toxic, the entire structure is unstable. The words you feed yourself shape the limits of your belief, the rhythm of your habits, and the depth of your confidence. You can't talk yourself into greatness while thinking yourself into failure. There's a war happening in your mind every single day, and the outcome depends on which voice you give power to. The voice of fear or the voice of faith. The voice of doubt or the voice of discipline. The voice that says, who do you think you are? Or the one that says, you were born for this. You've got to decide which voice gets the mic, because the one you listen to the most becomes the loudest, and eventually it becomes the truth you act on. So many people are waiting for permission, waiting for validation, waiting for the world to recognize something they haven't yet recognized in themselves. But when you think about yourself always, you stop waiting for someone else to believe in you. You start becoming your own confirmation. You stop looking outward and you start looking inward for evidence that you're worthy, that you're capable, that you're called. Your words begin to build the world you live in. Your declarations become direction. Your language becomes leadership. And the moment you shift how you speak to yourself, everything around you starts responding differently. The reason why some people stay stuck isn't because they're not talented. It's because their inner dialogue never graduates. They keep telling themselves they're not ready, not qualified, not enough. They play old mental tapes from childhood, from failure, from trauma, from rejection, and those tapes become the soundtrack of their decision-making. But your mind doesn't know the difference between truth and repetition. Whatever you rehearse becomes real. If you keep repeating that you're too late, too broken, too far behind, your life will mirror that narrative, even if it's a lie. So the question isn't just what do you believe, it's what are you constantly repeating? Words are creative tools. When you speak, you are giving instruction to your future. You are designing your destiny in real time. That's why you can't afford to casually speak defeat over yourself. You can't afford to joke about your failure, minimize your gift, or talk down to your purpose. Because the words you casually drop are being picked up by your spirit. You are either prophesying progress or postponing it. And the people who experience radical breakthroughs aren't always the most gifted. They're the most intentional. Intentional with their thinking, with their language, and with their vision. You've got to learn how to affirm what hasn't even shown up yet. You've got to declare the finished product in the middle of the process. That's how faith works. You speak to the mountain, not about the mountain. You speak healing in the middle of brokenness. You speak clarity in the middle of confusion. You speak momentum in the middle of stillness. Because if you only speak what you see, you'll never change what you see. You have to speak what you seek until what you say shows up. This is where self-mastery begins. Not in the doing, but in the being. Not in the grind, but in the agreement. You have to agree with your future before it agrees with you. And that agreement starts in your language. How do you describe yourself when no one's listening? How do you interpret your failures? How do you celebrate your wins? Are you quick to dismiss progress? Are you addicted to humility that sounds like self-deprecation? Or have you learned to speak life even when the evidence hasn't caught up yet. The truth is, your life will rarely rise above the level of your language. If your words stay small, your results stay small. If your declarations are timid, your outcomes will be too. Confidence isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's when your language matches your assignment. It's when you stop disqualifying yourself from rooms you were built to lead. It's when you stop apologizing for being gifted and start taking responsibility for using what you've been given. But that only happens when you upgrade your inner conversation. Thinking about yourself always means treating your inner world with as much honor as your outer world. It means guarding your self-talk with the same intensity that you guard your bank account, your business, your brand, because nothing drains value faster than a mindset stuck in sabotage. You can have the opportunity, the skill, the network, but if your inner language is laced with fear and self-doubt, you'll keep pulling yourself back every time you try to move forward. It won't be the haters, it won't be the critics, it'll be your own voice saying you're not ready. You have to make a decision to become fluent in your future, to speak the language of your next level, to silence the sound of sabotage and replace it with the sound of strategy. Every word you speak over yourself is either watering your growth or welcoming stagnation. You don't need more time. You don't need more talent. You need a new conversation, one that is rooted in truth, fueled by vision, and aligned with the person you're becoming. There is power in choosing yourself daily, not just when everything is aligned, not just when people approve, not just when the world claps, but even when it's silent, even when it's hard, even when it feels like no one sees what you're carrying. Choosing yourself isn't about selfishness, it's about stewardship. You've been given a vision, a calling, a purpose, and if you don't prioritize that, the world will have no problem giving you a cheaper assignment. Every single day, you're either reinforcing your identity or rejecting it. You're either building your future or betraying it by how you treat yourself. Most people live in response. They respond to their circumstances. They respond to people's opinions. They respond to criticism, to rejection, to setbacks. But those who think about themselves always don't live in reaction. They live in revelation. They've already made the decision to show up fully, whether they're celebrated or misunderstood. They've already decided that their value is not determined by applause, but by alignment. When you choose yourself, you're not waiting for permission to shine. You're not asking for someone to notice you. You're not hoping someone else sees your worth. You already decided, and now the rest of the world gets to catch up. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you deserve. And if you haven't made the decision to value yourself, to choose yourself, to invest in yourself, everything in your life will reflect that. Your relationships will reflect it, your business will reflect it, your daily habits will reflect it, because the level at which you show up for yourself is the level others will show up for you. If you neglect your growth, your rest, your peace, your time, why would anyone else honor it? If you keep choosing to come last in your own life, why would the world put you first? Choosing yourself means backing yourself when nobody else does. It means investing in your own development without waiting for someone to sponsor it. It means betting on your dream when the results are still invisible. It means trusting your instincts even when your track record is still being written. Most people are waiting for a breakthrough, but the real breakthrough happens the moment you stop abandoning yourself. You stop second-guessing your gift. You stop editing your authenticity. You stop waiting for a moment and become the moment. You've got to stop treating yourself like a backup plan. You are not a placeholder for someone else's greatness. You are the blueprint for something divine. Every time you choose someone else's comfort over your calling, you send a signal to your subconscious that you're not worth the risk. But nothing great is built without risk. Choosing yourself means choosing the discomfort of growth over the ease of fitting in. It means walking into rooms where your voice shakes, but you speak anyway. It means honoring your own presence even when it feels unfamiliar, because evolution always feels uncomfortable at first. You can't live in purpose and please everybody. The two don't mix. When you start choosing yourself, people will say you're different, and you are. You're no longer apologizing for being too much. You're no longer watering yourself down to keep others comfortable. You're no longer sacrificing your peace for validation. That shift comes with loss, but it also comes with power. Because the moment you start choosing yourself, you stop attracting what drains you and start drawing in what develops you. People who see you, rooms that stretch you, opportunities that align with your spirit, not just your skills. There's a version of you on the other side of choosing yourself that is bold, focused, and on fire. That version doesn't wait to be invited to the table. They build the table. That version doesn't chase. They create. They don't beg for alignment. They embody it. But that version is not unlocked by chance. It's unlocked by choice. Repeatedly, relentlessly, daily. Choosing yourself is not a one-time decision. It's a lifestyle. It's deciding every single day that your peace matters, your vision matters, your time matters, your voice matters, and then making decisions that match that belief. You've got to make peace with the fact that not everyone will understand your choice to prioritize yourself. Some people are addicted to your lesser version. They loved you small. They were comfortable when you were unsure. They liked you more when you were playing it safe, but you don't owe them that version of you. You owe the world the real you, the whole you, the healed you. And that you can only show up when you stop betraying yourself for the sake of being understood. You don't need to be understood to be effective. You need to be aligned. Choosing yourself gives you the clarity to move differently. You stop showing up in desperation and start showing up in authority. You stop settling for what's convenient and start walking in what's divine. You stop giving discounts on your value just to get picked. You weren't born to be picked. You were born to be placed. And when you place yourself in position through discipline, through self-respect, through intentional choices, life starts responding to that version of you. Resources respond. Relationships respond. Results respond. Because the universe honors the energy of someone who's finally showing up like they believe in themselves.